Hello creative ones, it's Michelle here with mixedmediaart.net, and today I'd like to share my very favourite new addition to the store so far this year, and it's the Dress My Craft transfers. They come in so many different sorts of designs, there's so many different ways you can use them. Let's jump in and have a play. Okay, so these Dress My Craft transfers water transfers, and like I said, they come in so many different designs. So let's run through them and then we'll have a play. So each page packet has a sheet with all these images in it. Here's actually one to size, so that gives you an idea of just slightly bigger than A4, and you get all these different designs on one sheet that you can cut out. It also comes with full instructions on how to use it as well. So we've got butterflies. Oh, there's so many to share with you. There's these flowers, and I used one of those here in our envelope class, and you can see here I've drawn over it with the Life of Colour paint pen, so you can draw over them as well. We've got cute little dogs of different descriptions. We've got clocks. I love the clocks. There's different sorts of flowers. Some kukli owls. We've just got those back in stock. They're really popular. Beautiful, beautiful flowers. Then up there's the clock. So there's a whole heap of different clocks there. We've got these variety of different critters. These ones are, I think this is called Tom and Jerry. No, Berry and Jerry, sorry. So we've got all sorts of different bits and pieces there. These gorgeous ones, they're called Kidland Critters, just gorgeous for a project for a small person in your life, or some pastels. And we've got these sort of elements as well. This one's called Awesome Blossoms, and there's a variety of different scripts and bits and pieces, just perfect for your journaling. So let me show you through how I like to use them. So I've got here a piece of mixed media paper that I've decorated with some acrylic paints, and it's well and truly dry. I've then got my butterfly sheet, and I've actually cut them up, and what I have done is previously cut a whole heap up and had them here ready to go. I find sometimes that really helps the creative flow, because sometimes if you've got to stop and fussy cut, I am not a huge fan of fussy cutting, so I find that really frustrating. So I have a whole heap already cut up ready to go. And what we want to do is, because the whole sheet has the images on it, we do want to trim it quite closely to the image itself so we don't get too much of the extra clear plastics on our design. So I'm just going to run around that with scissors. Again, it is clear, so it's not going to have a line around it, which is always good, because that's always frustrating when we want our art journals to appear, our images to appear in our art journals without look like we've stuck them in. So I'm going to trim that one quite close there. And again, trim it around, being careful not to cut the actual image. Like I said, not a huge fan of fussy cutting. So we'll go around. Antennas are always a challenge with butterflies. Sometimes it's almost better to just cut them off and then draw them back in later. But for this one, we'll leave them on, coming around there. And like I said, you don't need to cut them so carefully, but I do find it leaves just less of the shiny background around the image, which really does help to embed it into your art journaling page. These are also transparent, which is great, so it will show some of the background through it, which is what we're always looking for in our art journaling, is ways of being able to show it through. So like I said, this has been done with acrylic paints and it's completely dry. If you're going to put it over inks, you want to make sure that that's a archival ink so that it won't bleed. Now I've got some water here on a sponge. Now the instructions do also say you can soak it in water. My concern with something this size is that if it flips over and gets stuck on itself, it's just going to make a mess. So I'm going to add it on here and then use the sponge on the back to remove the backing. So the first thing we do need to do is make sure you remove, it's got this clear coverage. We have found that if you forget that, it will just transfer it to that, which isn't the end of the world. You can still stick it on. Now that becomes quite sticky, so you want to be very careful how you handle that. Position it where you want it. And now we want to add the water to remove this backing. So we don't want to add too much water that it soaks through our piece. Although this is mixed media paper, it will take a fair bit. And it takes a little bit of time. You can see it there starting to change colour. And some people said this reminded us of sort of even before we had rub-ons or the old tattoos, fake tattoos you could get at the show. So a similar sort of process, but rather than rubbing it on, we get to use the water to bring that backing off. So I find particularly, sometimes if we rub too hard, it can create a bit of an indent in our art journaling pages. But you could use this in your scrapbooking, in your card making, on anything. It does say it needs to be, not too porous a surface, but so far it's done very well. Okay. Now what we find is you sort of get to the point where you think, oh, this is never going to go, and then it goes all of a sudden. Let's see if we can get this off in one piece. Now, if you do find it comes off in pieces, that's okay as well. If you are pulling the image up, then just add a little bit more water, and then just wait for it as well. So dry my fingers. I don't want them being too wet. There we go. And you can see there that that's started to move away. Pulling it up really carefully, making sure that the edges aren't coming up with it. Looks like I need a tiny bit more water on this side. Again, you can see it hasn't quite come away, so that's okay. Add a bit more water and we'll wait. Come back to this side, pulling it back around. Oh, there we go. Now that has come away and there's still a tiny bit more there, so set that aside. And there's a tiny bit more there. Adding a little bit of extra water. I'm just going to dry it off. Pull it a bit off. And there we go. We have our gorgeous Dress My Craft transfer now on our art journal page. So you can see that the colour from behind it is actually coming through. And so it really has just added that really interesting focal point on top of our background. So we've still got the colours underneath. We've still got, if we had any writing underneath, that would shine through as well. So fantastic. I hope you've enjoyed that little demonstration on how we're using our Dress Our Crafts transfers. So I hope you can jump onto the mixedmediaart.net website, have a look at all the Dress My Craft transfers we have. We will be at some upcoming craft shows as well as we ship across Australia. So check out our website for details. So I hope you had fun learning that. I would love to see what you can create with them. You can find us on Facebook and share your creations there. And I hope you've had a very crafty day. Bye for now.